עמדה נערה מול הכותל, שפתיים קרבה וסנטר. אמרה לי תקיעות השופר חזקות הן, אבל השתיקה עוד יותר. אמרה לי ציון הר הבית, שתקה לי הגמול והזכות. ומה שזהר על מצחה בין 40 היה ארגמן של מלכות. הכותל איזו והצוות, הכותל עופרת בדם. יש אנשים עם לב של אבן, יש אבנים עם לב אדם. עמד הצנחן מול הכותל, מכל מחלקתו לקחה.
It was lovely. It was nice. I was there on a Friday night when there was a lot of people there dancing and singing. It was very spiritual. I was also there in Tisha B'Av when it was very sad. So I've been there and I've been there just as a tourist, putting notes in the wall. And every time it's been a very good experience.
Okay, and was davening with men and women separate, different for you, or the same?
It was different. It was a different experience davening with just men because I'm used to having, davening men and women together.
Okay, and how did that make you feel?
It was okay. I mean, I think it's okay for men and women to be separate sometimes, if we choose to have that kind of experience, as long as it's okay that we can all come together when we want.
Yes, I do agree with what Women at the Wall are doing. I think that it's really amazing that some women are sticking up for their right to pray at the Western Wall.
I've been to the Kotel many times, most recently for Rosh Chodesh Av with Women of the Wall.
Okay, and what was the experience like?
So the times I've been to the Kotel in the past was very frustrating for me because I usually daven with talis and tefillin, and usually when I go to the Kotel I'm not able to do that. But for Rosh Chodesh Av I was actually able to put on my talis and tefillin, and that was amazing for me and very powerful. There was a large group of women. They estimate between 200 and 350 women were there at that time. And I was pretty close to the center of a large crowd, so I was in the middle, I wasn't on the outside, which meant that I was very close to the Shlichat Tzibor, the woman who was leading the davening, and I could really hear the singing and really be involved with the davening, which was great. I wasn't on the very edges, so I didn't really notice people shouting or being mean or anything like that, because I wasn't really encountering them very much.
Okay, and was davening with men and women separately different for you, or the same?
Davening with men and women separate is different for me. I like the sound of women's voices together as a group, although I usually prefer mixed men and women together. What was interesting about Rosh Chodesh Av, the most recent time we went to the Kotel, is that there were a number of men who came in order to support Women of the Wall, but because the police had set up barricades, they couldn't get across to the men's section. So they were stuck with us, which was fine with me. So they were standing not too far from where we were standing, so it was almost a mixed service, even though men were on one side and women were sort of stuck together. We were right next to each other. I understand that they're not conservative Jews, and I am a conservative Jew, and so in that sense we are a little bit different in what we're trying to achieve. But the Kotel was not always an Orthodox synagogue, which is what it is right now. And I think it's very important for groups like Women of the Wall to fight for the ability for Jews to daven the way they want to.
I think the Kotel is one of a few places in the world that is open, that is a Jewish symbol. It's open for all Jewish people. I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with what women of the Kotel want to do. They want to have their own space to pray to God in their own way. It's perfectly acceptable according to Jewish law and Jewish tradition. So why not? I think that everyone should be able to express themselves how they feel comfortable, as long as it's within the parameters of Jewish law.
So I've been twice, once recently in July and then a year ago to the Women at the Wall. And I do support the right to pray as they see fit, as I would support anyone's right to do so within the context of legitimate Jewish traditions, which includes what the movements in the United States really are about: Reform, Conservative, Orthodox, Reconstructionist. Although I would say that it is not my major issue of religious plurality and religious equality in Israel. That is, if I was going to make a big deal out of religious equality, praying at the wall would be very low on the list. I'd be much more interested in things like marriage and life cycle events and funding of the various streams. That would be much more important to me than things like what the Women at the Wall do, but I certainly support the right to do it.
I think that the Women of the Wall are just praying for praying, but it's making a statement that some people don't like.
I think they're doing both. I think they're praying because they want to pray to God, but I also think that they're protesting that right now at the wall, and even in Israel in general, it's a bad situation where there's one group that has too much power, and Israel is a place for all Jews, and like I said, all of us should be able to express ourselves the way that we want, as long as it's within a very broad range of what's acceptable according to Jewish tradition.
Well, I do think that it's not the same thing as the Western Wall, but I do think that Robinson's Arch can also be a holy place for Jews to pray and women to pray. But I do feel like that some of the restrictions at Robinson's Arch are not really fixed, because Robinson's Arch doesn't have like wheelchair access or disability access, and it's open certain hours and closed certain hours. So I don't think that that's really fair, considering that the Western Wall is open at all times and has access for anyone who wants to go there.
So ideally, I would love to see the Kotel, the area that we currently use for davening, as a place that can be for egalitarian davening or separate davening, whatever people want. If there's absolutely no way to divide that space or have time sharing of sometimes it's this way and sometimes it's that way, I think Robinson's Arch is a really good potential alternative or addition to what currently exists.
Addition on Robinson's Arch, and now some people think that we should turn the arch into a fully accessible davening space for men and women to pray together.
What do you think about that? Is that the right thing to do?
Yes, I think that is, not only is that absolutely the right thing to do, in my mind, it would be a great thing to do, because it would give us a shared wall, and different traditions could be in different places. As I said before, I prefer Robinson's Arch. It's much more inspirational, and so I would be very much in favor of that. It's used for that kind of purpose now, but the difference is that you don't have full access to it. So if you want to go there at some time other than previously reserved, it's you have to pay money to go into an archaeological park. So I would be very much in favor of that, and as far as I'm concerned, I think that would solve the issues, even though the Women of the Wall would disagree with that, but I feel that it would, so I'd be very happy to see that.
So, it's really funny, because the whole idea of the Kotel being our holiest place in Judaism, it's just the retaining wall. It's not actually up on the Temple Mount. It's not exactly where Jews were going, for the rituals when the temple existed, we weren't standing down there in that wall area. So I have a certain level of I don't want to say cynicism, but sort of I don't think that you have to be at the Kotel in order to be close to God. And I think the experiences that I had previously going to the Kotel many times before the most recent time I went with Women of the Wall, because it was negative for me that I couldn't daven with Talis and Tefillin and I couldn't be singing loudly the way that I'm used to singing, has made me have a little bit of separation from thinking that the Kotel is the most important place in Judaism. And so for me, I feel that any place along that wall, even Robinson's Arch, is good enough.
I think it is at least equal, if not greater holiness, and for some of the reasons that I stated earlier, because you stand on the exact ground from 2,000 years ago that our ancestors stood on, and you see the stones that were hurled off the top of the surrounding wall of the Beit HaMikdash, the protective wall, and you see the storefronts from 2,000 years ago. So in that sense, if history adds something to holiness, I actually think Robinson's Arch is an even holier place than the other part of the Kotel, at least to me. The other part, of course, has the fact that Jews, for hundreds of years, went there as the place that they could try to get close to the Beit HaMikdash, and that has its own specialness too. But I'm very happy to be at Robinson's Arch.